You have this iconic character, Jason Voorhees, and it was a great jumping off point for us to take this character and think of a way to reintroduce him to a new audience and the old audience.
When you think of Friday the 13th, you probably picture Jason Voorhees in his hockey mask, machete in hand, stalking victims around Crystal Lake. But here's the twist. Most fans don't actually know the full story. The cast has revealed shocking details that flip what we thought we knew about these films. From hidden truths to wild behind-the-scenes chaos, their confessions will change how you watch Friday the 13th forever. Ready to dive in?
He's an anti-hero. You're rooting for Jason most of the time. I mean, he's the one constant in these films that everybody comes back to see.
The truth about Jason. It's the ultimate horror movie mix-up. Ask a random person about Friday the 13th, and chances are they'll say Jason Voorhees was the killer in the original film. You can't really blame them, after all. Jason's hockey-masked face has become the brand of the entire franchise. But here's the jaw-dropper. In 1980's Friday the 13th, Jason wasn't the villain at all. His mother was. Pamela Vorhees, played by the legendary Betsy Palmer, did all the slashing in that first bloody summer at Camp Crystal Lake. Even more surprising, the cast says this misremembering has been happening since the very beginning. People would come up to me and talk about Jason killing everyone in the first movie, Palmer once admitted in interviews, and I'd have to laugh and remind them, Jason was just a little boy in my flashbacks. I was the killer. That twist was revolutionary for its time. Horror audiences walked into the theater expecting a faceless maniac, and instead got a grieving mother driven to madness. Adrienne King, who played final girl Alice Hardy, said fans were stunned. They didn't see it coming. Everyone thought the killer would be some random guy in the woods, but when it was revealed to be this sweet-looking older woman, it completely flipped the script. The cast has often pointed out how much of Jason's later mythos actually overshadows that original story. Ari Lehman, the actor who first played Jason as a child, that terrifying jump scare at the end of the movie, has said fans constantly confuse his role. People ask me about wearing the mask or swinging the machete, Lehman joked, but all I did was pop out of a lake and grab someone. That's it. What's fascinating is how the cast describes the audience's obsession with Jason's mother-son backstory. Palmer herself took the role not because she wanted to be in a horror movie. She famously thought the script was a piece of junk, but because she wanted money to buy a car. Yet her performance gave birth to one of horror's most twisted origin tales. Cast members have reflected on how Palmer played Pamela with eerie sincerity, which made her both sympathetic and terrifying. She believed she was protecting her son, King explained. That's what made it scary. She wasn't just some psycho, she thought she was right. The misremembering, though, isn't just a casual fan mistake. It became embedded in pop culture. Look at Scream, 1996, where Drew Barrymore's character is quizzed on horror trivia and fails when asked who the killer in Friday the 13th was. She says Jason, not Pamela, and pays the price. That scene perfectly captures how widespread the confusion really is, and the cast of Friday the 13th loved that nod because it proved just how ingrained the myth had become. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The actors admit they didn't expect Jason to become the face of the franchise. In fact, many of them assumed the first movie was a one-and-done slasher. We thought it was over once Pamela died, King recalled. No one imagined Jason would come back, grown up, and become this unstoppable machine. Lehman, too, has shared how surreal it feels to be part of the character's strange evolution. I was the little boy, but then Kane Hodder and other actors came along and made Jason this giant, terrifying monster. Fans blur it all together, like Jason was always there from the beginning. What fans missed, according to the cast, is that Friday the 13th originally wasn't Jason's story at all. It was Pamela's. The films only shifted focus later, building Jason into the unstoppable slasher we know today. That first film, it belonged to a mother's grief, and the actors never get tired of reminding fans about it. But how did Jason's simple hockey mask become the most terrifying face in horror history? The signature look. If Jason Voorhees is horror royalty, then his crown is the hockey mask. It's instantly recognizable, white, worn, peppered with holes, and terrifying in its simplicity. But here's the kicker. Jason didn't even have the mask until the third movie. And according to the cast, fans are always shocked to learn just how accidental its creation really was. Richard Brooker, who played Jason in Friday the 13th Part 3, was the first man to don the mask, but even he didn't realize it would become a pop culture relic. "They handed me this goalie mask, and I thought it was a temporary thing," Brooker once admitted. "I didn't know I was putting on something that would follow me for the rest of my life." So what did Jason wear before that iconic prop? In Part 2, Steve Daskawish, who performed most of Jason's stunts, lumbered around with a burlap sack over his head, complete with a single eye hole. Cast members have joked about how ridiculous it looked, almost like a twisted scarecrow. "It was creepy, but it wasn't iconic," one actor later said. People laughed at the sack. No one's laughing at the mask. Here's where it gets wild. The hockey mask wasn't originally designed for Jason at all. During production of Part 3, the special effects team scrambled to find a face covering that would work better on camera. Rumor has it they grabbed a goalie mask from one of the crew members who happened to be a hockey fan. The cast still laughs at how random it was. "They literally said, 'Here, put this on and see how it looks,'" Brooker explained. And that was it. History. The actors remember how quickly everything changed the moment Jason put on the mask. "It gave him an identity," said Tracy Savage, who played Debbie in Part 3. "Before that, he was just a deformed guy lurking in the woods. Once that mask went on, he became a force of nature." It was chilling. Kane Hodder, arguably the most famous Jason actor, taking the role from Part 7 through Jason X, has spoken often about how important the mask was for his performance. "It stripped me of facial expressions," he said. "That meant I had to act with my body, my breathing, my head tilts, my posture. The mask forced me to make Jason scarier through movement." The cast also revealed how awkward it was to perform under the mask. Visibility was terrible, and the inside heated up like an oven under studio lights. Some actors nearly tripped over props or missed their marks because they couldn't see. Others admitted they had to time their breathing so they wouldn't fog it up during intense scenes. "It was claustrophobic," Hodder confessed. "But that actually helped me stay in character. Jason should feel suffocating." What most fans miss, the cast points out, is how close Jason came to looking completely different. Had the hockey mask not worked, Jason might have ended up with another sack or some other makeshift disguise. Imagine if they'd chosen something less intimidating. Jason could have easily faded into slasher obscurity instead of becoming the legend he is today. Even funnier, the mask itself has its own subtle variations across films that many viewers never notice. Cast members like C.J. Graham, Part 6, have pointed out that each movie's mask has small differences in shape, wear and tear, and coloring. Hardcore fans can actually identify which film a mask comes from just by looking at the details. "It's like a fingerprint," Graham said. "Each mask tells its own story." The actors love how something so simple became such a powerful horror symbol. They've shared countless convention stories about fans showing up in full costume, mask and all, decades after they wore it for the first time. "It's surreal," Hodder has said. "That thing started as a random prop, and now it's one of the most famous images in horror history." While fans tend to think Jason's mask was part of the plan all along, the cast knows the truth. It was pure luck. A quick-fix costume decision that turned into the face of fear. Next time you see it gleaming in the shadows, remember, it almost never existed. Moving on to some controversial action. The stunts that nearly killed them, literally. If there's one thing the cast of Friday the 13th agrees on, it's this. The sets may have looked fake, but the danger was very real. Forget CGI or fancy safety rigs. Back in the 80s, horror movies were shot on shoestring budgets, and that meant actors and stunt performers often had to wing it. The result? Some of the franchise's most iconic scares came with a very real risk of disaster. Adrienne King, the original final girl Alice from the first film, has spoken about just how raw things were. In the climactic fight with Pamela Vorhees, she wasn't just pretending to swing that oar, she was swinging it with all her strength. Betsy Palmer recalled laughing afterward, saying, "She really clocked me a couple of times." It was supposed to be a fight scene, but it felt like a bar brawl. The bruises weren't in the script, but they were very real. Then there's the infamous lake stunt. Remember the shocking ending of the original film, where young Jason leaps out of the water and drags Alice under? Ari Lehman, who played Jason, still describes it as both terrifying and hilarious. "They threw me into this freezing lake with weeds, mud, and God knows what else, and said, 'Just pop up and grab her.' I was sinking, trying not to breathe swamp water, and Adrienne is screaming for real because she thought I was pulling her too hard. It was chaos." The sequels only ramped up the danger. In Part 2, the sack-headed Jason had to chase victims through the woods with real machetes and axes. The cast remembers how stunt coordinator oversight was minimal. "Sometimes we were just told, 'Don't swing too close,'" one actor admitted. "That was the safety protocol. Don't miss." Steve Daskawish, who played Jason's stunt double in Part 2, actually sliced his own finger during a take. He shrugged it off, wrapped it up, and kept filming. Fire was another hazard. In Part 7, The New Blood, Kane Hodder performed a full-body burn stunt as Jason, a scene where he walks calmly while engulfed in flames. Hodder later revealed it was the longest controlled burn in film history at that time. "I couldn't see, I couldn't breathe, I was just counting the seconds," he said. "When they finally put me out, I thought, okay, that was insane." The cast remembers holding their breath during the scene, terrified something would go wrong. Even the simpler stunts weren't exactly safe. In Part 3, the famous 3D effects meant weapons were thrust directly at the camera lens. Tracy Savage recalled how nerve-wracking it was to be inches away from sharp props flying toward her face. One wrong move, and it wouldn't have been special effects. It would have been an ER visit, she joked. Drowning hazards were constant too. Crystal Lake wasn't a Hollywood set. It was a real murky body of water. Cast members admitted they had no stunt doubles for many of the water scenes. Actors who couldn't swim well were tossed into canoes, told to capsize, and filmed thrashing around. More than one performer confessed later that their screams weren't acting. They were panicked yells for help. Looking back, the cast often laughs at how reckless it all was. But, at the time, there was nothing funny about it. "We didn't think of it as dangerous," King explained. "We thought of it as low budget. You just did it because there wasn't another option." And here's the wildest part. Those dangerous, unpolished stunts are exactly what made Friday the 13th feel so raw and terrifying. The terror you see on screen, half of it was acting, half of it was sheer survival. As one cast member put it, "When you see us screaming or running like our lives depend on it, it's because, in that moment, they kind of did." But what if I told you some of the most chilling, unforgettable moments in Friday the 13th weren't even in the script? Yup, let's discover these one by one. unscripted moments that made it into the final cut. One of the best-kept secrets of the Friday the 13th franchise is how many moments fans love weren't even supposed to happen. For all the careful storyboarding and stunt choreography, the cast swears some of the most memorable scares came from pure accident or pure panic. Adrienne King, the original survivor Alice, remembers one of those accidents vividly. During the finale of the first film, Pamela Vorhees lunges at Alice in the cabin. What fans don't realize is that King's screams weren't rehearsed. Betsy Palmer charged at her so convincingly, with her eyes blazing and hands clawing, that King actually believed she might get hurt. That scream you hear? That's me really freaking out, King laughed years later. Sean Cunningham, the director, loved it and kept rolling. He said, "That's better than anything we could have planned." Another legendary oops moment came courtesy of Jason himself. In Part 3, Richard Brooker had to smash through a door to grab one of his victims. The problem? The set crew had miscalculated the wood they used. Instead of breaking easily, the door resisted, and Brooker had to throw his entire body into it. The actor inside wasn't expecting such force, and their scream of shock was completely real. "We kept it," one crew member explained later. "It looked way too good." Then there's the canoe scene from the first film, the quiet moment before Jason bursts out of the lake. Adrienne King wasn't given much warning on timing. They just said, "Sit there, drift a bit, and don't look around." "The next thing I knew, Ari Lehman was yanking me into the water," she recalled. Her startled yelp is genuine, and it became one of horror's most iconic jump scares. Improvised reactions also made their way into the franchise's bloodiest moments. In Part 4, the final chapter, Crispin Glover, yes, Back to the Future's George McFly himself, added his own bizarre dance moves during a party scene. The cast said it wasn't choreographed, he just started wiggling in this strange, jerky rhythm. It was so odd, the director decided it was perfect. That dance has since become a cult fan favorite, endlessly memed and replayed at conventions. The gore, too, sometimes caught actors off guard. In Part 2, one unlucky victim's throat is slashed while lying in bed. The fake blood pump malfunctioned, splattering much more violently than expected. The actor's look of horror wasn't acting. It was him being drenched in sticky red goo, with no idea when cut would be called. The cast admitted everyone broke into laughter after, but the footage stayed. These raw, unscripted touches gave Friday the 13th its authentic edge. Instead of clean, polished Hollywood horror, you got chaos. Real screams, real surprises, and moments that felt messy in the best way. And fans can sense it. Audiences pick up on authenticity, King explained years later. When a scream or a stumble isn't rehearsed, it feels different. That's why people still remember those scenes. Looking back, the cast agrees that the accidents were part of the magic. "We didn't have the money to be perfect," Tracy Savage from Part 3 said. But sometimes, imperfection makes it scarier. It feels real because it sort of was the cursed set stories. It wouldn't be Friday the 13th without a little superstition, and according to the cast, the bad luck wasn't just on screen. The making of these films came with its own share of eerie coincidences, freak accidents, and moments that made even the most grounded crew members wonder if the set was cursed. Take the first movie, for instance. Adrienne King has often talked about the unsettling vibe at Camp Nobi Bosco in New Jersey, where much of the filming was done. At night, the woods felt too quiet, too isolated. Cast members swore they heard footsteps when no one was around, or branches snapping just out of sight. "It was creepy enough playing a character being hunted," King said, "but when you walked back to your cabin and heard something moving in the dark. You started wondering if Jason was real. Some of the curse stories were more dangerous than spooky. In Part 2, production faced constant problems with equipment breaking down at the worst times. Lights would short out, cameras would jam, and in one case a generator caught fire during a night shoot. The cast laughed it off back then, but many later admitted it felt like the universe was trying to shut them down. Then there's the strange weather. Several cast members remember sudden storms rolling in out of nowhere. During Part 6, Jason Lives, a massive thunderstorm hit right as they were filming Jason's resurrection from the grave. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the graveyard set. "It looked amazing on camera, but it wasn't planned," said Tom Matthews, who played Tommy Jarvis. "It was like nature was helping Jason come back to life." Some crew even joked that they had summoned him for real. Superstitions followed the actors beyond the set, too. Kane Hodder, who played Jason across 4 films, recalled how fans constantly asked if he experienced anything paranormal while filming. At first, he'd laugh it off until one unsettling night. While staying at a cabin near set, he swore he felt someone tugging at the foot of his bed. No one else was in the room. "I don't scare easily," Hodder admitted. "But that shook me. I didn't sleep much after that." There were also more tragic stories. After appearing in Part 2, actress Marta Colbert, who played Sandra, spoke about how cast members felt a lingering sense of dread, as though working on the films carried bad energy with them. Adrienne King herself suffered real-life trauma when a stalker harassed her following the release of the first film, a chilling parallel to the themes of being watched and hunted. She stepped back from acting as a result, making her one of the franchise's most haunting off-screen stories. Even Betsy Palmer, who wasn't a believer in curses, admitted that the experience felt strangely fated. She only took the role of Pamela Vorhees because she needed money to buy a new car. That car broke down on her way to the set. "It felt like a bad omen," she once said, laughing. For the cast, these coincidences and creepy happenings became part of the franchise's legend. Whether you believe in curses or not, the stories have fueled fan theories for years. Did the bad luck just come from shooting low-budget horror films in unpredictable environments, or was something darker hanging over Crystal Lake? Cast confessions about fame and typecasting. For many actors, a role in Friday the 13th was a dream come true until it wasn't. Sure, the franchise became a pop culture juggernaut, but what most fans don't realize is how much it shaped, and sometimes derailed, the careers of the people on screen. The cast has been candid about the double-edged sword of horror fame, the rush of recognition, followed by the frustration of being pigeonholed as nothing more than that kid who got killed at Crystal Lake. Adrienne King, the franchise's first final girl, is a perfect example. After surviving Jason's mom in the original film, she thought it would open doors to more roles. Instead, she found herself typecast. Casting directors would say, "Oh, you're that scream queen," King later recalled. "They didn't want to see me in anything else." For years, she struggled to break out of the horror box. Fans adored her, but Hollywood saw her as one thing only: the girl who screamed and lived. Others had a different take. Kane Hodder, who played Jason 4 times, embraced the typecasting. He leaned into horror conventions, fan meet and greets, and built a whole second career out of being Jason Voorhees. "I realized I wasn't going to shake him," Hodder explained, "so I made him mine. Jason gave me an identity, and fans gave me love. I'll take that over disappearing any day." For actors who only appeared briefly before meeting a grisly end, the fame was even stranger. Tracy Savage has talked about how people recognized her decades later, not for her other projects, but for the time she was skewered by Jason. "You'd be surprised how many people remember the kills," she laughed. "I've done plenty of work since, but it always comes back to that." The cast also opened up about the pressure of horror fandom. Some confessed they weren't prepared for the intensity of conventions. Fans would line up with masks, machetes, and replica props, wanting detailed stories about scenes the actors barely remembered. "I'd be asked about how I felt dying in a specific way," one actor said. "And honestly, at the time, I was just thinking, is this fake blood going to stain my clothes?" And then there's Betsy Palmer, the original Mrs. Voorhees. For her, Friday the 13th wasn't about fame at all. It was about a paycheck. She often joked that she thought the script was trash and never expected it to blow up into a worldwide phenomenon. "I was an actress, I did Broadway, I did films, and yet the thing I'll always be remembered for is chopping up teenagers at a camp," she said. Fans adored her, but Palmer always carried a bemused distance from the fame it brought. The shadow side of typecasting also weighed heavily on some. Several cast members admitted they felt their careers stalled because horror wasn't respected in Hollywood at the time. Being in Friday the 13th wasn't seen as a stepping stone, it was seen as a dead end. "If you died in one of those movies, studios figured your career was dead too," one actor remarked. But here's the twist. Many of those same actors later came to embrace their horror legacy. Time and the loyalty of fans turned what once felt like a burden into a badge of honor. "At first, I wanted to run from it," Adrienne King admitted. "But now, I'm proud. I was part of something that people still talk about 40 years later." Not every actor gets that the confessions from the cast paint a fascinating picture. Some ran from Jason, some embraced him, but none escaped him. Whether it was typecasting, cult fame, or unexpected adoration, Friday the 13th left its mark on their careers forever, just like Jason left his mark on Crystal Lake. But are all the fan theories you've heard about Jason and Crystal Lake really true? Time to confirm from the cast themselves. Fan theories, the cast says you got wrong. If there's one thing Friday the 13th fans love almost as much as Jason himself, it's speculating about what all of it really means. Over the years, the franchise has inspired endless theories about Jason's immortality, his family ties, and even secret crossovers with other horror villains. But according to the cast, a lot of these ideas are either flat-out wrong or wildly overcomplicated, and they've had plenty of laughs setting the record straight. One of the most popular fan myths is that Jason was always meant to be supernatural, a zombie-like killer who could never die. Cast members who worked on the earlier films have been quick to laugh that one off. "Trust me, nobody was talking about zombies on Part 2, said Amy Steele, who played Ginny. "Jason was just a really pissed-off, backwoods guy." It wasn't until Part 6, Jason Lives, that Jason officially crossed into the supernatural, brought back to life by lightning in full Frankenstein fashion. Before that, the cast insists Jason was supposed to be human, just an unstoppable, very angry one. Some fans believe Pamela Vorhees never truly died at the end of the first movie, and that she secretly influenced Jason throughout the sequels. Cast members have openly chuckled at this one. Betsy Palmer, who played Pamela, was blunt about it. "I lost my head in that first movie. It doesn't get more dead than that." Still, Adrienne King admitted she loved hearing fans spin that theory, saying it showed just how invested people were in the twisted mother-son dynamic. One theory that's floated around for years is that Jason shares a kind of psychic or supernatural bond with his mother. That's why he somehow knew to keep killing after she was gone. The cast had mixed feelings about this one. Kane Hodder admitted he'd never heard it until fans started asking him at conventions. "I thought it was crazy at first," he said. "But then I thought, maybe that explains why Jason's so driven. So who knows?" Here's a theory that actually impressed the cast. Some fans claim the franchise hinted at Jason's eventual showdown with Freddy Krueger years before Freddy vs. Jason hit theaters in 2003. Specifically, they point to Jason Goes to Hell, where Freddy's glove grabs Jason's mask at the end. While that was definitely intentional by the studio, fans swear earlier films dropped breadcrumbs. "If they did, it wasn't on purpose," laughed C.J. Graham, Part 6. "But I love that fans saw connections we didn't even think about." Perhaps the strangest theory is the idea that Jason actually drowned as a boy, and every version of him we see afterward is some kind of ghostly manifestation. Ari Lehman, who played the young Jason in the original, finds that one hilarious. "I'm not a ghost," he said. "I was a muddy kid who popped out of the lake." That's all still. Some cast members admitted the theory adds a creepy layer if you want to read the films that way. When asked what fans most often get wrong, the cast usually comes back to the basics. Jason wasn't the killer in the original movie. The mask didn't appear until Part 3, and Jason wasn't supernatural until much later. Kane Hodder summed it up best. "Fans want Jason to be bigger than life, and I love that. But when we were filming, none of that mythology was planned. We were just trying to scare the hell out of you with what we had." In the end, the cast has come to embrace these theories, even the weird ones. They see them as proof of the franchise's staying power. After all, if fans are still debating Jason's motives, origins, and powers 4 decades later, that's more terrifying than any machete swing. If you loved these revelations, hit that subscribe button and join us for more hidden stories from the legends of horror.